today. We have quite a bit of information to cover with you that's very important, so thank you for coming today and giving us your attention. On March 12th, all juniors will be taking the ACT. You will be doing that here at school. It's on a Tuesday, so you'll report as normal. We will have breakfast for you prior to the test, and then you will proceed with the directions that are given that day as far as testing. Something that is very important with the ACT, if you have not taken it, is you have to have identification. So there's two forms of identification we are accepting. One, a valid driver's license. It cannot be expired. It cannot be a temporary license. So if you have a valid license, that will work. The other option is a school ID. It has to be for this academic school year. So if you do not have either of those, please make sure you go to the activities office and get your school ID for this year, okay? On the test day, we will also require students to use a calculator during the ACT. So if you have a calculator that you are comfortable using, you can bring that, otherwise the school will provide those for you. We have test prep available for you guys. Dr. Gbach's going to share some test strategies with you today, but this Saturday we also have a session you can come from 8:30 till noon and study all 4 testing subjects. If you want to participate in that, please just make sure you sign up here today before you leave. The sign-up's at the front of the room. Lastly, there are test study guides that are available to you for free from Europe. Several of you guys have already picked up your copies, but if you have not, you can come to my office and the guidance office and get your own copy of those. I think that's all I have for you about the day itself, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gbach. Please give her your full attention. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to zip through these pretty quick because we have just a short amount of time. So we've already covered the first thing on my tip sheet, which was calculator, what to bring and all that. And I've had a lot of students in the past show up for the test without a calculator, and you absolutely need a calculator, so bring that. These are test-taking strategies, not test prep strategies. So it would be great if you would take advantage of the test prep that we have available, or even just go to the ACT website and do some practice problems, practice tests, so you can try out some of these strategies. Now, what I would like to do is give you these strategies today, and then after March 12th, once you've seen what the ACT is like, if you haven't taken it before, then come back and maybe discuss some more test prep strategies if you're planning on taking it again, maybe in April or June or your senior year, which you should all do. Okay, so I used to teach ACT prep before Mr. Sones did, so a lot of these are just based on things I've noticed. And the first thing that I noticed, which is why it's in all caps, is answer all the questions. You don't get penalized for guessing. And I cannot believe the number of practice tests I've given students and they leave questions blank. You'll get a warning when your time's about up, so if it gets 5 minutes, 1 minute, you better start filling in some bubbles. Worst mistake you can make is leaving items blank. So please do not do that. Second one is ACT is a lot harder for time management. You have to read a lot faster than you do on the Iowa assessments. So if you are spending 30, 40 seconds on a problem, and then you get to, it's been about a minute. Math, you have about a minute for each problem, but every other section, you get about 30 to 40. So if you are spending a lot of time on one problem, you probably need to cut your losses and move on. Okay? So you just can't spend that much time on each question. You can write in your test booklets. So my advice is to circle a question that you might want to come back to if you have time. And then if you have time, go back. If not, oh well. But another thing I've seen is kids that skip questions and they don't answer it. And then I'll be looking at their answers and they're just blank ones. If you are at a question where you're struggling and you think to yourself, okay, I have to move on, answer it and then move on. Okay, just give it your best guess. Make sure there is something in that bubble, because what if you run out of time and you forget to go back and fill in that bubble? You have at least a 20 to 25% chance you're going to get it right on your guess. Okay, so circle it, move on, but make sure you answer it. For the English, my favorite rule, and if you've had me in class, I say this all the time: less is more. Flip your paper over to the practice English problems. You don't even need to read these questions. 43, it's D. 44, it's J. Why? Because they're the shortest answers. Almost always, for the English problems, if you have answers that are long and one that's a little bit more concise, almost always that's going to be the correct answer. But obviously you want to check and make sure it makes sense. But less is more is my favorite rule. It works quite frequently. Otherwise, a good rule is to just go with what sounds the best. Okay? I know when you're taking tests, there's a lot of grammar rules you forgot, or you're just in a rush, obviously. So go with what sounds the best. Okay? It's great if you can remember the rules, but if you're reading through and you're like, I don't remember this rule, read it in your head. Which one sounds the best? That works a lot too. Obviously, these are test-taking tips. Does not take the place of actually practicing and learning those rules. So I want to make sure I tell you that. Math is what I am not the best at. That's my weakest area. So math, look at the pictures carefully. Obviously, if they're giving you a picture, they're not going to give you a picture unless you need it to answer the question. Okay, so math is probably one of the hardest ones to know when to move on and when to try and answer it. Okay, so for math, if you are in a spot where I gotta guess something, I can help you at least try to guess a little bit better. So if you look at math example 1, which is it's pretty easy, you probably know how to do it. But let's say you don't. Okay, so one way to guess is to plug in actual numbers. So if you don't know how to figure this out, and you're gonna think, okay, I'm gonna plug in one of these answers and see if it works, always start with answer choice C, or in this case, H, whichever one is the middle one. In this case, H is actually the correct answer. You got lucky. Oh good, it works, you can move on. But let's say it wasn't right, let's say 9 wasn't right. Then at least that can tell you, am I too high or am I too low? So then I can try a second one and see, well, if I was too high, I can try 3 or 4. If I was too low, I can try 12 or 13. Now these math ones definitely are not foolproof methods for guessing, but it gives you a little bit better of a chance. Okay? And the other one where I said make educated guesses, so if you look at my second example, there's definitely no way I know how to do this. I saw some math teachers in here, so I'm just gonna be honest, this is one where I'd be picking something and moving on because I do not remember trick. So this is not foolproof, but it works some of the time. So if I'm looking at math example 2, I see A and B are fractions, and C, D, and E are not fractions. So I'm probably going to go with the majority rules and guess C, D, or E. Not perfect, but I've at least, I can make a better educated guess. And in this case, it is one of those 3, although I don't remember which one. So math people, you can figure that out. Reading. Reading's a tricky one, I think. It's one that really throws people. So you don't have time to read in depth. Maybe a few of you will if you read fast, but most kids tell me that they really struggle with having enough time on reading. I think that's probably where I hear the most common, that's the most common comment I get. So skim each passage. You can write in your test booklets, so that doesn't apply just to math. It helps if you can annotate as you're reading, underline important things, start, whatever. Really pay attention to the first and last paragraphs of whatever you're reading, but also topic sentence, conclusion sentence, okay? And when you're reading fiction, one thing that's really important is to notice relationships between characters, sense the tone, see what word choices they use. Are they angry? If there's 2 people, what's their relationship? How do they feel about each other? But for any passage, try to figure out, what's the point? What's the tone of this? What is the author trying to tell me? Because there are always going to be questions about interpreting what they're talking about. But I am one of those people where a lot of test prep books tell you, for English, read the whole passage first and then answer the questions. I personally don't think that's the best way, and I think most students would say, just go along and read the questions. Same for reading. I think if you have time, I would read it first and then look at the questions. Some say read the questions first. and then read the passages. I think most of you, especially if this is your first time taking the test, skim the passages, then answer the questions. And if you have little notes, those can definitely help you. And a lot of times if they want a specific answer, they'll tell you which lines to look at. Science. Also, that's probably my least favorite and the hardest one to test prep for. So science, you get 35 minutes for 40 questions. There are 7 passages. Reading, there's only 4 passages you have to read. Science, there are 7 passages. It's going to be really technical. It's going to be really boring. However, it does not require a lot of background knowledge in science. It requires you to be really good at looking at charts and graphs and interpreting that data really quickly. My personal advice is do the conflicting viewpoints last, and a lot of test prep books say that, because you're going to get 3 paragraphs of really technical science jargon, and it's going to take you a lot of time to read those and answer the questions. When you're given pictures, you can usually answer those more quickly. So if you look on the back, I gave you an example of not a question, just a science sample passage. So if I was reading this, or if I was trying to do this science passage, what would I do? How would I approach it? I would definitely pay little or no attention to what's written, skim very fast. And I would be looking at this table and looking to see what I notice from this graph, or from this chart. So as you can see, they give you boiling point and then they give you pressure. That's the unit of pressure if you don't know. So when we're at a higher pressure, then that's when you have the higher numbers. As the pressure goes down, so does the boiling point. So you can see each column, no matter what it is, gradually goes down. Okay? So if you can quickly look at that, see that there's a relationship in what it is, that will help you answer the questions more than probably the written part. And I'm telling you what, guys, the science, it goes fast. So do the math. If you have 35 minutes and 7 passages, that's not very much time per passage. So science is one where I really think you have to be picking the ones with the pictures, the charts, and the graphs, and save the one that's all writing for last. And science is one where you're probably going to be filling in those bubbles. How many of you have taken the ACT before? Okay, good. Okay, other just general information. Oh, I'm doing really good on time. I would really, even if you don't go to the test prep, I'd really encourage you, even if you don't look at a full-length test, just to try some sample questions out and try some of these tips before test day. So I'm going on the assumption that you don't know very much about the test and that you've never taken it. So this is just little tricks that can help you a little bit. After you've taken it and you have the feel for the test and you see how it goes and what you struggled with, then I can help you a little bit more. Some people struggle with time management. Some people read really fast and that's not a problem. Some of you are really good at math. Some of you are really good at reading. Okay, and I did just put some information down at the bottom. I was amazed at how many people don't really know how the ACT is scored or how it works or why you should even take it. Okay? ACT was actually developed by a guy at the University of Iowa because he was unhappy with the SAT. And a lot of people ask me which is easier, ACT or SAT. I would say for the majority of people it's probably the ACT because I think you can study for it a little bit more. The SAT is more of an aptitude test. Although in 2012, ACT surpassed SAT as the most taken college entrance exam, and then SAT in response redesigned their test, so it's a little bit more like the ACT, so I found that interesting. But all colleges, as of 2007, will take the ACT. Most take both, ACT or SAT. So, scored on a scale of 1 to 36, you're going to get a score from 1 to 36 in English, math, reading, science. That's the order of the test too. And then you'll get a composite. So a composite is your average score for all of them. And then if you notice at the bottom, I gave you just some information. Are they taking the writing? I forgot to ask. Okay, writing is optional. It is scored not on 1 to 36. It's 2 to 12, 1 to 12. So I didn't put that on there because I didn't think you were taking it, which If you want to know more about the writing, or you plan on taking that at some point, you can stop by and see me in room 122. If you just have any questions, you can always stop by and ask if you want some more resources or information, although you've been given quite a bit. Also, something I wrote on here, which you should definitely pay attention to, is if the colleges that you're interested in, if they super score, which some do, and your transcript is super scored. So super score means if you take it more than once, the school is only going to look at your best score in each subject. So let's say you take it the first time, you do awesome in math, horrible in reading, and then you take it a second time, and it flip-flops. You do horrible in math, good in reading. Well, they're only going to take your best for each subject, so it's good if you look at which colleges super score. Also, I get a lot of questions about what's a good ACT score. Well, a 36 is really the only good one. But if you look at the bottom, you can see the averages. We're pretty close to the state average at 21. It just depends on which college you're going to and how much money you want to get. Okay, you can look up what ACT score you need for Iowa or Iowa State or wherever you want to go, but a lot of it depends on what program you want to go into. Are you going to get into an engineering program with a 21? Probably not. Do you want to get good scholarships? You better be shooting for 30 plus, okay? So make sure you know what the program requirements are and look at different scholarship brackets to see what score you need to be shooting for. Okay? So hopefully you find this helpful. Please try to at least do some practice questions so you know what to expect on test day. And then if you would like some more help, I can definitely come back.
Thank you, Dr. Zivak. I wanted to let you guys know of one other thing regarding the ACT. If you want to take it again and you qualify for a free and reduced lunch, or you're in one of the TRIO programs, Upward Bound or Talent Search, you can come to the guidance office and actually get a waiver and take the ACT again for free. So just be aware of that. That is an option. And of course, anybody can take the ACT at any time. And if you need help signing up for it, if you want to try to improve your score, come see us in the guidance office. And lastly, before you go, just remember, the more practice you get, the more successful you'll be. So apply these tips that she gave and consider coming to the test prep session this Saturday. You do need to sign up for that in advance. It's up here. Madison can help you get signed up. Otherwise, you guys are free to go. So thank you very much.
I have a question.